We are Kraken One Open, but you already know that. We're in our 11th episode, and thank you for joining us. You already know we are the podcast that combines the inaugural Seattle Kraken season with a little bit of drinking on the side, but after some sobering losses, man, it's been a little bit tough, and we've got a little bit of blame to take for that. But for those of you that don't know, I'm your host, Nick Cody, at JustFollow61 on Twitter, and my main man over here, Jameson Edwards. He is our hockey expert around here, an Eastern Conference specialist, as he hates to be called. So, Jameson, what did you get from these games? And, at least right off the bat, how do you feel about some tough losses, an overtime loss, but two losses that I think the fan base is a little bit sour on right now?
I wouldn't put too much stock into losing to Philly and New Jersey quite yet. As of, a couple hours ago, they were both undefeated. New Jersey just getting their first loss to my boys down in Washington. So those are a couple strong teams, especially with, Seattle kind of still getting their sea legs, if you will. I thought they looked pretty good against Columbus. That wasn't really that heartbreaking. It was a close game. That goal by Tanev was pretty sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Gruby looked good. I felt he bailed them out of a lot of situations, which hasn't really been a consistency quite yet. I'd like to think over the course of the season we're going to be seeing a lot of big things from him, but he's had a fairly weak start relative to what I think a lot of people were expecting.
Let me show your role right there, because you're already deep diving first periods of, come on, slow down. All right. You're acting like you're new to the podcast. This is the Face Off, and hopefully you're already following us and you're subscribed on YouTube. But you should know by now we have our Face Off where we let you know what we're drinking for the evening. And after, what, again, I said some sobering losses, we're going to take it pretty easy tonight, but I'm sticking with our Kraken sponsor for craft beer, Hot Valley, going with Bubble Stash, Cryo Stash, and a little bit of Mango Stash right here, switching it up. And as always, got our fantastic Kraken koozie on the side. So, Jameson, you doing the old Titan True?
Yeah, I actually still have the bottle of Jim from last week that I've been working on slowly but surely. So, sticking with the Jim and Coke, Jim and Diet.
There we go.
Release the Kraken!
Cheers, mate. And we go to our penalty box, where we quickly talk about the things that we need to drink for, and ultimately I'll start off and talk about. I feel as much to blame as anyone on the team for our losses. I was working during both of our last starts, 4 p.m. games here on the West Coast, and I was still here logged in at home and watching a little bit on my peripheral vision in the side as I was able to catch that living room TV here in my little studio setup, which you guys will in fact be seeing Jameson in Halloween night. We're going to record right here before and after the Rangers game. So I'm thinking we're going to have to get our penalty box in right here and there. But what I'm drinking for is, wasn't able to crack one open technically during those games. And I feel like every game where I've really been cracking it open the most is when we've won or done pretty damn well. So I'm blaming myself for the loss there, Jameson.
Worth it. For myself, it's pretty much the same thing. I missed a couple first periods, and even on a more personal level above that, I didn't skate yesterday or last week.
Jeez.
So
lazy.
I'm slacking, man. So that and with us being in Miami next week, I won't be able to do that either. So taking a little hockey vacation, I guess. But at least we're going to be recording live on Sunday, and then, like you said, we'll be seeing the Rangers at Climate Pledge Arena on Halloween.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoy your drink there, mate.
Release the Kraken!
And before we get into our first period, which is our deep dive on the Kraken, where we'll talk about those losses in the last games that we've seen since our last episode. I just want to remind everyone out there, we haven't had anybody on our Facebook RSVP yet. We want you there for our live episode in Miami, since releasing this episode on Friday. That's just in 2 days. So Sunday evening, be on the lookout. And even if you catch it a little bit later, we still hope you enjoy. We are going to be in full party mode. You won't want to miss it. It's oh, excuse me. Wow, already got the burps this early on. We're not even that deep into the first period, and I'm already messing it up here for us. But hey, here we go. We've got so much to talk about. The first thing we got to talk about is obviously that game against the Blue Jackets, where first time we didn't dig ourselves into a hole in the first period. Very encouraged by that. Groovy was out there looking most excellent. I a tremendous amount of saves that just left my jaw dropped as a new hockey fan. And obviously that Tanev goal that, as you said, I don't want to make it too sexual, but there are things that I felt from that goal that just, give me goosebumps still when I think about it, or I watch that GIF over and over and over and over and over again, because man, I knew he played hard. I knew he hit hard. I knew he skated fast, but even as Hackstall joked after the first, who thought he'd be the leading scorer this early,
That, sticking with the slightly sexual undertones, it is hard not to feel something when he just puts on a clinic and undresses everybody on the Blue Jackets line. It was really nice. And again, especially you don't expect that necessarily from a guy who's going hard into the corners and throwing his weight around so much.
Yeah. But I will call myself out real quickly. Tied right now with McCann leading the team. But again, cool, good enough.
Yeah. I think that game easily could have gone the other direction with a little bit more cohesiveness as far as Larson Alexiak had a couple weird kind of unnecessary pinches where resulted in either a breakaway or an odd man rush, which really tested Grubauer, which, going back to what we both said already, how Groovy was just standing on his head doing backflips. Most of those saves were in very high pressure situations. It wasn't just a routine stop and okay, now we get a line change. It's a lot of 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s. Even Patrick Laine had a breakaway. Laine, of course, being the ones that get the game winner in overtime. So he is arguably the most dangerous forward on that team. When I saw him go off on that breakaway, I was just like, oh, come on, man, not like just anybody else.
Yeah.
But just weird situations where you get three guys down low and someone will pinch.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have four Kraken players in the offensive zone with the puck going the other direction. That's one thing that has been very, very prevalent in all three of these games that we'll be talking about. And it didn't stand out as much against Columbus because they're not as strong of a team as Philadelphia or New Jersey.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre because Philadelphia has traditionally been fairly good, but not necessarily undefeated it's only been a few games, of course. And then with New Jersey, they're in a really big rebuilding era. So it is interesting to see them coming together a little bit. But like I said, I really feel the Columbus game could have gone either way. Maybe a lucky bounce in either direction. It could have been 2-1 in regulation. It could have been 3-2 in overtime. Just a lot of little things that could have gotten polished.
Yeah, it was just good to at least see them not get themselves into a deep hole early and see them play with some control for a little bit. With that, also, I saw some things that as a new hockey fan, it feels to me like on the defensive end, in our own defensive zone, we are oftentimes caught chasing the puck more than playing back and in a position where we're able to be effective. And our veterans are absolutely good at going there and helping the goalie out and actually getting some saves and blocks of their own. But it feels like everyone else, like that's not like one of the captains or veterans, it feels like everybody's chasing the puck and that nobody's back there for when things don't necessarily go where the puck is going to be expected.
Yeah, that was a big one that I had noted mostly for the New Jersey game,
Mm-hmm.
where there was one play where all five Kraken just collapsed, and White was just on the far outside, and it was just tic-tac-toe straight to him, right into the slot, and then just easiest goal of his life.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can't expect Joey Dacker to make that save
Yeah.
when everybody on, everybody wearing white on the ice is just staring at the puck like it's a nudie photo or something.
Yeah.
It was just very bizarre.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have this term in football, but in hockey it's just always head on a swivel, head on a swivel.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's a football term for sure too.
Yeah. And so to see him just out in no man's land, just with a clean tape to tape pass, that just had me scratching my head, just saying, come on, guys.
Well, we'll get to all the head scratching in the New Jersey game. Let's move on to Philadelphia. I think, well, actually, before we move on to Philadelphia, I think a great point we can clarify right here while we're diving deep is an overtime loss is a lot better than just a regular loss in terms of the standings. Could you give me just a quick overview of why that matters in the point system in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, so it wasn't always that way. Going back into, I believe it was going into that lockout era, 2004, which is when they got rid of two-line passes, and that's when they implemented the shootout after the 3-on-3 overtime. It used to be a full 25 or 20-minute 5-on-5 overtime, and then if it resulted in a tie, you just each got a point, and that was it. But then you saw a lot of sandbagging from teams, and it was just, okay, we're playing for the extra point, we're not playing to win. And in that case, the losing team wouldn't get a point. So a lot of the time now, especially, I think Pittsburgh has 2 overtime losses. I think it might be Philadelphia has 2 overtime losses, to be tied for second in the Metropolitan with 6 points apiece at the moment. And then with the Kraken going 1, and then with the overtime loss, having that quick 3 points rather than just 2, it's just a way to encourage like winning in regulation, especially for more important games down the line, once you get a better idea of who's where and what the remainder of your schedule is versus how it is in the beginning of the season. So that's just briefly why you get a point for an overtime loss.
But hey, it's better than nothing, and at least we got something out of the, especially, it would have been a shame to get nothing out of that beautiful Tanev goal. Anyways, moving on. We get a day off of rest, then we go on, and this next game, a 4th game of this road stretch, is Philadelphia, and again, those things turned up where it was not only in terms of getting behind early, but unfortunately some injuries at goal, and Gruby get down early and having to put Drieger out there, and Drieger getting hurt, obviously, which we didn't know until the next day. But tough night, tough situation, definitely impacted the next game. What were your thoughts?
That's another one where it could have gone a couple different ways. I mean, the goal from Brassard that just went off Cece's foot, where it was to make it 3-0 with Gruby already kind of struggling. And I mean, you and I kind of briefly touched on it while I wasn't watching the game, and you said Carter Hart looked really good, and I kind of shut that down. But then I went back and actually watched the replays, and he was out of his mind for at least what I expect to see from Carter Hart. So for him to really come out and be solid in net for Philadelphia, and then to get some crappy bounces that resulted in goals against Gruby and the Kraken, that's going to take the wind out of your sails so fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, again, like the whole head on a swivel thing, but a lot of that comes into, I feel like one of the main focuses or points that have stuck out to me over the course of time watching Groovy this season is that his rebound control is very weak right now. And that combined with the fact that these guys are focusing on the puck and not what kind of like zone coverage you can have to, help out deep or, cut off a passing lane or what have you. Those are two very, very topsy-turvy qualities to have in a team that was supposed to be known for its defense coming into the season. It certainly surprised me anyhow.
And you were very surprised as we were communicating during that game that, you were like, Philly's going to come out to an early first period lead. No worries. And I was telling you like, you're not watching right now, but I don't know if we're getting anything past our goalie. And then I didn't realize until he had this fantastic save that I told you to look up. I'm not sure if he did.
The one on Eberle?
Yes. Where Eberle, it looked like had an easy first goal for his first Kraken goal. And just that, and I think that was off a rebound possibly too. He dived and it was like Captain America going on a grenade, dude. And then I realized I've seen this guy before. So I look it up. Where does he play? He's been with the Silvertips before. When have I seen him? My mom bought me tickets, I think in 2017 or 18 for like right on my birthday weekend to go catch the Silvertips. And I think I remember seeing him. It must have been a shutout. I probably can go look up that score after this episode. But man, I just was like, this is my first moment as a hockey fan where I'm like, I actually know this guy is probably better than everyone's expecting. And yep, he certainly was that night. And I remember you were like, he's not that good, but young guy, and he showed out in that game.
I believe my exact phrasing was Carter Hart is far and away the worst starting goalie in the NHL.
That was, and I think you could drink to that.
And well, I mean, I'm basing this on years prior where Philadelphia has lost dozens upon dozens of games based purely on his performance alone.
And I'm basing this on superstition where you jinxed us. So, not there you go.
All right. I wanted to do that anyway. We're not counting that as a victory for you.
Fair. Anyways, and we got one more game to wrap up, and going there to the New Jersey Devils. It was I think the most enjoyment I got out of it is a little early couple previews to some Coheed and Cambria I heard played there most obviously. Yep. So and honestly, a favorite thing about the NHL as a new fan is of all the pro sports leagues, the most Coheed and Cambria played. So as some of you may know, me and Jameson aren't just going to Miami, but we are going on a Coheed and Cambria cruise immediately a day after we have our live episode. And we're going to be cracking a lot open on that. But again, New Jersey, that's probably the things I want to remember most is the 2 times I heard Coheed songs because another rough day. And honestly, DeCourt came out there, had a great showing after being called up literally same day from Charleston, having to come out and get flown up from the checkers and come out and play goalie because of Drieger's injury, which kind of shocked us all. But on the other hand, we got Yanni Gourde back, and it may have shook up the lineups a little bit, but it was really good to see him back and healthy.
First, 1 game, 1 assist for Yanni. He had over 22 minutes on the ice, almost 22 and a half minutes, which is a long time. That, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but in today's morning skate, Pelle Yankrok is back, so we might be seeing them on the same line moving forward.
Nice.
I want to say originally that was the expectation, but we'll see how that shapes up moving forward, especially with Morgan Geekie being hurt in the Jersey game. Yeah. One of the small things to take away from that hit, one, Jonas Siegenthaler, who is a former Capital, threw the hit, and Donato stepped up and got in his face, which you don't really expect that from a guy like Donato. Yeah. It's not that I would compare him apples to apples as far as a guy in Washington that I've grown to love in TJ Oshie,
Mhm.
who I think he's only had maybe 6 fights over the course of his career, but he's a big dude and he's a team guy. If someone gets hit in a weird way, he's gonna get in there. And it was good. I think it speaks a lot to the character of Donato, because it is really easy to just say, "Hey man, I just put the puck in the net. You guys worry about the fisticuffs."
Yeah.
But when someone like Donato steps up like that, I think it says a lot for the team.
Yo, well, and so far in 5 games, 6 fights, which, it shows you that even though we've been losing some games and we've been taking some hits with some of the injuries we've had, guys have been stepping up for their teammates, which means a lot for an expansion team, I would think.
Definitely. I mean, as of right now, here's a little statistic:
Yeah.
116 hits over the 5 games that we've played. That's second in the NHL. 6 majors, including 3 fights specifically against New Jersey, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
They are first in the NHL
earned
for
it.
that. Yeah. So it's a team with a lot of grit. And again, as you said, especially being an expansion team that hasn't really had time to develop that level of camaraderie that other teams probably have had. You get, forgive me for keep bringing it back to Washington, but where the core lineup has been together for a decade, a couple of guys. It doesn't matter technicalities, but everybody moving out at the same time to Seattle and having to come together in a very expedited fashion, to see them all just standing up for each other, I think that's going to translate into more on ice production and chemistry the further into the season they get, as they become more comfortable with one another on a synergistic level.
Not only that, but especially after this long damn road trip, I can't wait to be over with. And when we finally record our live episode, we'll have our first home game in Climate Pledge Arena. I'll be flying out almost immediately after the game. Can't wait to see it, watch it, while I'm getting ready, packing up and heading your way to pick you up in Chicago and head out to Miami. But hey, well, we all know you are a tried and true Capitals fan. I'm glad you could get a little head start there before we go into our second period. But good first period, good deep dive, and I can't wait to see how the Kraken do in Climate Pledge Arena with their first home game.
Release the Kraken!
And it will be released. Not as much as we are going to be releasing it when we are there Halloween against the Rangers. I got to catch a little bit of the Rangers this week, and I can't tell you any single name I can remember from it. But I was sitting there thinking, at least I know we're going to see premium hockey. Who else is doing really, really well outside the league right now? And, you're allowed to get your OV update here, since I was stealing that from you last week.
I think today was the first day that Ovechkin didn't have a point. He went into tonight's game against New Jersey, 4 goals in 3 games, which is his third best start over the course of his entire career. Being an old man, he's got gray hair. He's only a few years older than us, and that's crazy. Oh, granted, I have no hair, so that has to count for something. But yeah, part of the reason I wanted to pay so much attention to this game, and then earlier in the week when Boston played Philadelphia, 2 teams I really don't like to go out of my way to watch, but I wanted to get a feel for how Philadelphia was looking after the shit show of a game against the Kraken earlier in the week.
Yeah,
I'm on top of it. But they looked good. 6-3 against Boston. Boston's had a strong team for years, and I gotta say, I probably just underestimated them. As far as, maybe I've been spoiled by being a Capitals and Penguins fan for so long, and generally speaking, aside from maybe 2010 when the Flyers lost to the Blackhawks in the Cup Finals, they've generally been a kind of overlooked team. So it probably is just a perspective, maybe even biased thing.
Well, that and Philadelphia sports fans make it very, very easy to hate against their team. So I understand that fully from a football perspective. Completely understand. And I know when my football head coach Chip Kelly went to the Philadelphia Eagles, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're going to be a big Eagles fan now?" And I was like, "Well, that entails a lot. I'm not going to throw anything at Santa. I'm not going to. There's a lot of things Philly fans are known for, and we don't got to get too much into it. But anybody that watches Always Sunny already knows the exact stereotypes that are played out by the typical Philly fan, and that's not even an exaggeration necessarily.
Right. Well, there was, but I won't even get into that. Some very racial things that went on. Well, actually, now I just got to mention it, right? There was a player named Wayne Simmons.
Yeah.
Black guy. Yep. Threw a banana on the ice while he was like right next to him. And everybody was just kind of like, dude, come on. Yeah. That's messed up.
Very.
But Philadelphia, man, what are you going to do? But
well,
whatever.
And that's also been very interesting to me as a new hockey fan, is city to city, not just seeing the different fan bases. And I already know, because I have a couple of friends that are Philly fans, and I know what to expect from them. But what was surprising to me, and I guess I'm going to have to get more familiar with the NHL, is the attendance at some of these arenas. I mean, Kraken fans were filling up as they were showing on the TV. As new Kraken fans were definitely able to get cheaper tickets, probably for all these away games than they were for. We know for Vancouver, cheapest ticket in the door solo is going to be about $450 at this point, and anything if you're looking to get a package deal, maybe closer up to the face-off is puck dropping is going to be still probably around $1,000, and maybe if you're lucky, right up to the last minute, if you're willing to sweat it out, might be able to get one. I was thinking about it, but I'm gonna have too much luggage to take with me, so I was really honestly thinking about going, Jameson, camping out, thinking, man, somebody's gonna recognize the podcast. I'll get a sympathy scalper, and nope, just not gonna happen this time. But hey, the Rangers, I'm excited to see them. But if you could catch any game and honestly rearrange history, rearrange this schedule, which I have to ask you about before we wrap up our second period, some questions I have about this schedule already. But if you could have had any team besides the Capitals that you could watch here in Seattle on Halloween night, who would it be and why?
Besides the Capitals. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really say I mean, naturally my second response would be Pittsburgh, just because I enjoy watching them play.
And I'd love to see Tanev play them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not only that, but lots of aging forwards the same way the Capitals have, and Crosby, Malkin, Jake Gunsel to a lesser extent, but
guys,
where they, I mean, legend, like first ballot future Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So I suppose something like that. I mean, it would be fun. I mean, I'm thinking, because as much as I'm supposed to not like the Islanders as well, they would be a fun team. I mean, again, keep in mind, I'm an East Coast guy, so a lot of these West Coast teams, I guess maybe it would be cool to see Vegas. It would be cool to see Colorado, specifically Vancouver, because of the prospective rivalry brewing.
Yeah.
Edmonton, just because Connor McDavid, to see him in person, I can't even imagine how fast that guy is just to see him.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of teams. Tampa would be fun, just because, I mean, they're struggling to get off the starting block this year, but
because we took Yanni from him. Now you got to pick one, man. You got to quit. You got to quit just dilly-dallying around here on the ice, man. You're slipping.
I'm gonna go with Edmonton, I think, just again specifically because of McDavid.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
That being said, the Rangers game is going to be really interesting because they have a young-ish forward who played here in Chicago, and Stan Bowman and company kind of let him get away. His name's Artemi Panarin, the bread man himself.
Ooh, I love that.
and he's arguably top 3 in the league right now, if not top 5.
Mm.
He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Really, one of the guys that slipped through the fingers of the Chicago Blackhawks organization, but that's the name to remember as far as Rangers are concerned. I know you said you couldn't remember catching anybody in particular, but he's a smoke show on the ice.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you reminded me. I have 2 more topics I want to delve into before we get into our third period. First and foremost, already kind of touched on it lightly. I want to know about this schedule. I want to know how the Kraken have already played 5 road games, and I think the Bruins are just now have just played 2 games at this point at the same time. I mean, I know there's a new TV deal, ESPN getting some games, TNT getting some games, and hockey getting on a different level. But do you feel anything at all that there's some scheduling, definitely mishaps here early on, trying to get the Kraken out there so much so early?
Wasn't there something about how Climate Pledge wasn't necessarily ready to go by the beginning of the season, so that's why they
that
forced
for
them
sure
into
is
this
why
weird
that's definitely
road
why
trip?
that's definitely why their road games are so. And yeah, just this week the Foo Fighters Death Cab Cutie concert, and then the day we release this podcast is going to be the Coldplay opening concert. But yeah, I mean it feels like it's been ready. They handed over the keys last week, but hey, even then, the way I've seen teams played out, even watching other games around the NHL this weekend, I was just thinking, man, I don't understand necessarily why this team's playing their first game and the Kraken had already played like 3. Just the spacing out in October is definitely weird.
It does seem to me that they are trying for the Fast and Furious marketing approach.
Yeah. Yep. Get those premium markets at the premium slots, and if it's not a premium team, well, we'll shuffle stuff around.
Right. The one that did stick out to me, and I remember mentioning this last week, was because Vegas was playing Los Angeles as we were recording last week.
Yeah.
And I remember looking up Vegas's schedule just to see when I'll be able to get a feel for what the strength of that organization is going to be coming into this season. And they didn't have a game for 5 days. I think they played St. Louis on Tuesday or something like that. And it was just the most bizarre thing because in that time frame, not only did Vegas have 5 days to rest after only playing 2 games, but then Seattle had to go all the way across the country. And I don't know. I feel like that could have been organized slightly better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot, at least I haven't looked at it necessarily too much, but again, just something I wanted to bring up that I think Kraken fans, especially new Kraken fans, were looking at thinking, oh, we kind of got jobbed a little bit here. But alas, we have little to complain about with 4 straight home games, which the 4th we'll be at. So that means all things go well. We are going to catch it at its peak, highest excitement. And just before we wrap up period 2, what do you think about their upcoming opponents, which opening night, Vancouver, and then I think Montreal, and then Minnesota before they go against the Rangers. So do you think we could be looking at an undefeated home season by the time we walk in, or am I being too optimistic?
Well, right off the bat, we're going to assume that they're going to crap all over Montreal. They're having the strangest turnaround, I think, at least in recent memory, because they make the miracle run to the Cup Finals last year. Granted, they got crapped on in 5 games, but they're 0-4 right now.
Yeah.
And like none of their games even look close.
Yeah.
Like they can't even tie their own friggin' skates. So, I mean, Vancouver will be an interesting game, especially being at home. I would be I'd be very disappointed in seeing a loss for that.
Yeah.
I think briefly going back to mentioning how Geeky was in a red no contact jersey this morning. I kind of interested to see if Yonkrek's going to be in the lineup for that. I don't know if I expect him to be.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the Geeky thing is just a precautionary, take a couple days without getting hit sort of thing.
Mhm.
If it was really bad, he either wouldn't have skated or they would have just put him on the IR like they did for Drigger right away. So there are a couple of what ifs in there,
Mhm.
but I will definitely say I would be disappointed for them to lose the first ever home game.
Yep.
I already touched on Montreal. Moving forward to Minnesota,
Mhm.
they were surprising last year. I think they're going to be a middle of the road kind of strong team this year. I think that one will be the most interesting as
Mm.
far as gauging if the Kraken kind of deserve that upper echelon sort of place in the standings.
Yeah.
Just because out of the four teams that we're seeing, I think the Rangers are going to be the strongest.
Yeah.
If I have to fathom a guess.
Mhm.
I mean, an additional part to that would be with our 6 fighting majors already, you get to see arguably the best fighter in the league in Ryan Reeves in New York.
Yep.
So if that trend continues, might be seeing that. I want to say 3-1, depending how they deal with New York. That's my, I mean, hopefully it's 4-0, but I think realistically 3-1 is the safer, more realistic.
Well, cheers to you there, mate. That's when I know we need to get into our third period, because I didn't ask you to get the Rangers prediction yet. We're gonna be there. We'll talk about it beforehand.
Sure.
But cheers,
Sure.
mate. That's a great way to end that period.
Release the Kraken!
Little delay there that time, but third period this week, no problem, no delay is going to cause any issues, because again, we don't have that much to talk about from our fans this week in our fan engagement, and we didn't schedule a guest to be on. I was thinking that 2 weeks in a row, and it was a little much to have 3, but got to give another thanks to Mike, who gave us 2 of these bad boy opening night magnets, which one you will take home when you come here and visit Seattle. Also, the pin right here, this thing is pretty fantastic. I am excited about this. The poster he got us, I think we're going to have some fun with on that New York Rangers Halloween episode. And it is a Vegas poster. There's a little Kraken symbol in there, but I think we're going to have some Sharpie fun with the player on there. That's a defenseman. Up, I have it up already. I can't see it necessarily from here, who it is necessarily, but we're going to have some fun with that and make that poster our own and a part of the podcast. Maybe throw it up back here once in a while when we play Vegas. But looking ahead in the schedule, man, New York Rangers, great. But then we play Edmonton, and then you get to see another look, just a day of rest, or no day of rest. The back to back, you go on the road after the New York Rangers games and go get to play Connor McDavid at a place that man, if they remember the last time they were at Edmonton, it's going to be really, really tough.
Yeah, this might be the first time, maybe over the course of my lifetime, where I'm thinking, holy crap, Edmonton might actually be really good.
Yeah. And not only,
I mean, going back to
that game up there definitely would make you think that way, preseason or not.
Right. And I want to say they're a somewhere near the top of the standings in the West right now as well. I believe they have 5 points with what Florida, Philadelphia.
Mhm.
I forget who all has 6 points right now, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of teams that you wouldn't expect. I mean, Florida had a good resurgence last year, blah blah blah. But specifically with Edmonton, there's that famous Gretzky trade where they sent him to Los Angeles, where
Yeah.
there's conspiracy
Yep.
theories surrounding it after, winning, what was it, 4 cups in Edmonton?
Yeah.
And they've just been lackluster ever since.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I think this is the first time over the course of my life where I'm thinking, holy moly, this is going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah. Well, and before we move on, I would love to get one of those controversial trades to get Ovi over here, because I think the only thing that's lacking is one of those major scores, and we get Ovi over here. I think Seattle Kraken could be the next. It was very funny to catch the. I don't know. I still don't know if you got to catch the Wayne Gretzky interviews that kind of intersected there with the OV overtake, but very, very funny. A lot of people were clowning on him, but man, it would be a very, very funny thing with us having this podcast, and it'd certainly be something I could rag on you for all time if they made a parallel move of Gretzky to LA and then OV to Seattle. Oh man, that's something only our third period could come up with, because that's how I've had a couple of beers and gotten us started, and Jameson can't even handle the idea of it. So let's move on. Since we don't have a lot of great Twitter feedback or any comments on YouTube, which you can still provide to us at this time, I want to just go with a man we've been wanting to see and hear from for a while, and that's Yanni Gordon. He had a little bit of post-game feedback about what it's like to get dropped there in that lineup. Let's just hear that and get our feedback, and we'll call it a third period.
I mean, it's pretty tough to come in and like new line mate, new team, new everything. But I think we did a good job of like simplifying everything and just going north and deep and just keeping our game simple. And it didn't work. We didn't win, but we had some good looks, and we'll build from there.
In this game, how did you feel when you were going in for contact, but also how did your shoulder feel in terms of range of motion, as well as with things like face-offs, considering that's
Which I was worried
All
about
good.
at practice.
Everything, nothing to be concerned about.
Which is great, because I was watching the entire time at practice for when he, and I don't know enough about hockey, and especially in a training camp practice, you're not trying to hurt your own guys. It's a different level of contact. But what I was really looking for, did he have any wincing or any struggling anytime he was taking slap shots that really you could hear and that were, he looked good to me at least. And it was good to see him out there, and really, really encouraging to hear, because New Jersey definitely felt like something was off. And the more you think about it, it's like, well, I was hoping for some energy as a new fan of Yanni coming back, but it makes a tremendous impact on not just him, but the rest of that lineup and every other lineup that gets affected by that, and the injuries that we're dealing with right now. So to close out our third period, could you just elaborate on what it's like to have those lineup changes and to be this young team that's still trying to figure out, like, what are the best lineups? Because I know a lot of fans were out there, as we coined very early, the Geek Squad was everybody's favorite lineup for a while. And then, Tanev goes out there, has to be our leading scorer. So they go ahead and move him around. And the Geek Squad is all of a sudden kind of messed up between that and injury. So what's it mean for hockey players to get a familiarity with their lineup and to have these filling out processes early in the season?
So there's a couple different levels to that I would like to touch on.
Yeah.
One, I think if there's one person given just individual experience to be thrust into that situation, Yanni Gourde's a great guy to do it. He's coming off 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups. He was originally expected to be on the first line.
Mhm.
So the only thing that I would anticipate him having a little bit of trouble with would be catching up to the difference in speed between practice and games.
Yeah.
Um, Generally speaking, I mean, he wasn't, I don't want to rag on the guy, but he wasn't a hugely like integral part to the cup wins, but he was there. So that's not something you could bat an eyelash at. His responses there are just this stereotypical hockey player, just, oh, it's just a little hard, and I just gotta keep moving forward.
Well, and post game interviews, I know from football, you're saying things that are reactions. You were saying things that are ingrained into your soul. They're not dishonest. They're just general because you are exhausted. You put yourself out there for your teammates, and you got to get your rest. And you're just sitting there. And you're like, I've got to answer some questions. I've been there. I sit here and I look at this podcast now. I'm like, oh yeah, I can ask some really dumb questions sometimes. But if you get me in the zone as soon as I'm done running, I have these weird finite answers that are just ingrained with who I am and what I'm instinctively taught through repetition and repetition. And again, same thing in hockey and same thing in most professional sports. And you are what you are. And what you put out in the media is going to, as many times as you try and, put something else out there or just try and be something else, you're going to revert back when you're exhausted to just your most natural state.
Not only that, but just to tack on an extra post-it, I don't think the average fan takes into consideration that watching something on television with multiple angles from a broadcast perspective, and not only that, but the subconscious sort of ideas that you develop over the course of the game based on it could change, be radically different if you're watching the home or the away broadcast.
Yeah.
That's going to impact how you as a fan think.
Yep.
So with Yanni or anybody doing a post-game interview, they haven't had time to review the tape. They haven't really had time to talk with their line mates and say, oh man, I see you want to go there. I should have been here instead. Or maybe next time you go there, look for me here. It could be a million different things. And as much as I like to rag on because that is the very stereotypical post-game interview for a hockey player, is just give very vague general answers.
Yeah.
But you don't really know what to say, because all you can go by is what your own eyes saw on the ice, and it haven't had the chance to take yourself out of the situation and just analyze it from the sky cam.
Bingo.
And see what.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe like this lane didn't look open when you were right here, or
even beyond that, just every single body position is the thing for me. I notice in football is like, oh yeah, you can have this ingrained memory of your own perspective and how everything laid down, and it's not wrong, but you can't necessarily see how your body position was. And it's the same thing that, you realize in most professional sports. And those are the degrees of things that make the difference when, you have that much spacing in between the goal and Gruby just gives that little inch and puck gets through there. So every single sport, it's a big thing. And great way to end our third period, great debate. And it proves we don't necessarily need the fan engagement to get that third period going.
Release
as much as we welcome it.
Kraken!
But there is one other switch up I want to do. And not only a third period with no fan engagement, but as we get to our sudden death wrap up, we didn't talk about my favorite subject to get Jameson on, and I think I'm going to have to crack open another beer here. I would love to, instead of wrapping up about this episode, let's talk about Evander Kane. What's our most recent update for Buddy here? And what punishment does he truly deserve from the NHL? Like a 21 game suspension?
21 games.
Yeah, but is that fair?
I think I'm trying to take my personal vendetta against this man, as you've heard multiple times over. Oh,
And if you haven't, you should subscribe below and be following, because this is my favorite part and everyone's favorite part.
we might
So-
have to make a supercut of this at some point of me just cursing Evander Kane out.
It's in the making. We got it. This is why I bring it up again. We need more material. Let's go.
All right. So this to recap up to this point, if you've missed the stuff in the past, just because it gets me going, he beats his wife, who's pregnant with his second kid. He gambles on fucking hockey games. Oh, okay, one. Oh, we're just gonna keep counting.
2. I got you. I'll get your tally.
Oh, is it 2 already? Good lord.
Yeah, it's 2.
Okay. So he gambles on hockey games. Neither was ever proven. She came out and his wife came out and alleged these things. Both couldn't be investigated so thoroughly by the league. I think that's a load of horseradish. But yeah, see, I'm learning new words so I don't have to curse. But what was the next one? I mean, the big one now is the COVID protocol, which could, if I must remind everybody, be a federal crime to lie about that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's punishable up to 5 years in federal prison.
Yeah.
So in any case, also this man went bankrupt, making over $7 million a year, multiple years over, because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
With children and a wife. All he has to do is shut the hell up and play hockey.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's a little bit too difficult.
A little bit for him. But do you think 21 games is fair for faking your COVID vaccination?
This is where I want to say yeah, but I'm also very skewed towards the idea that if your boss tells you you need to get vaccinated or you don't get to do your job, that's within your boss's right. If you're within, especially if you're within the public sphere and you're among world-class elite level athletes,
Yeah.
who you could legitimately put into danger because they not only are susceptible to it, even with the vaccine, which is a totally different subject that I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole, but they have kids that might not be able to get vaccinated. They have families, you know. I'm just saying, I think it was a little bit weak.
Fair enough.
I'm saying if I'm the owner of the Sharks, I'm saying you're never playing for my fucking organization again because you're a dumb piece of shit and I'm fucking sick of your garbage.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they are entitled to do, but talent, I mean, especially in pro sports, unfortunately, some of these times it's going to keep people hanging in there. And I am a little bit uncomfortable. Unfortunately, you know, I rarely would take opposition in this. I am a little bit uncomfortable with people enforcing. I feel like if there is a process for you to be tested and prove that you are really against the vaccine for whatever reason, problem is Evander Kane and many other athletes aren't really investing that time to prove that argument and show any kind of correlation because yeah, I mean, my own flesh and blood brother has GBS, and you know that's something that made me double take on the vaccine, but I still got it, even though I have a higher risk potentially of genetically developing something like GBS because of any vaccine. I still took that risk because it was a much smaller risk for me than passing it COVID on to one of my family members or friends. So I don't want to bag on Evander Kane too much more. I just love to get you riled up and get you in your Capitals red colors right there on the screen. But hey, we will have a lot more time to talk about this in person. And when we do get in person,
yeah,
the topic
very shortly,
the Evander Kane subject I do want to talk about in one period live. Would you give me permission
live
to cheaply headbutt Evander Kane? That's what I want to know, and we'll get into it next.
he's the only person in the league that I would allow you to do the Buchnevich on.
I will do some research and find a secondary.
and just for sake of clarification, because I know I came off a little strong right there. Like I said, I'm not for forcing people to get the vaccine if they have a reason like that.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing, which I think is the reasons that it's punishable by the NHL and perhaps even further by the organization, should they decide to take that route, is because he lied about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All he could have said is, I don't want it for whatever logistical reasons.
Fair enough.
He didn't have to present a fake card and lead his team to believe he's something that he's not. I think that's a load of shit that's just completely untrustworthy and is unfair to the organization, to his teammates, to the families of his teammates, to the rest of the league that he has to line up at a face-off against. I think it's just an absolute load of crap.
Well, you're not wrong, and I would love to cut, wrap, grab that last bit, and use it as a promotional piece for what our podcast stand for. Because even when we are at our most Kraken open, we still find a way to make some logical sense out of the world and the NHL. And oh, if you hear it right now, the sweet sounds of Where's Jameson are pumping through your headphones or through however you're watching on YouTube. And hey, we're glad and we hope you're cracking one open with us responsibly. That's Jameson. He is our musical genius and East Coast hockey expert. And I am Nick Cody. I hope you follow me at JustFollow61 and hope to be cracking open one with you on Sunday with our live episode. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.